Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 208. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Justin Goodbread, CFP, owner of Heritage Investors and FinancialSimple.com. Is a national recognized financial planner, financial educator, wealth manager, author, speaker, and entrepreneur. Justin spends most of his time helping fellow business owners across the country increase and manage the value of their businesses and personal assets so that they can live the life of their dreams now and in the future. Hello, Justin.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. I know the client is anxious to hear your story, so let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my client a bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own business?
So I grew up in South Georgia, over on the coast, just north of Florida here in the United States. And what I did before I started my first business was I was in school. I started my first business when I was 15 years old. And so I have been a serial entrepreneur my entire life. I don't know what it's like to not run a business. So before I started my first business, Patience, I was learning reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? So that's the direct answer to your question. But started a first business when I was 15. It was called Lawn Care by the Boys. My brother and I, a dog, and my mother, we started cutting grass. My mom had a nursing degree, or has a nursing degree, a master's in nursing, and she wanted to teach her boys how to be entrepreneurs, how to be business owners. So we started cutting grass, and before you knew it, we were making pretty good income. And that is what launched me into this world of now 3 businesses that I've started and sold for a profit. And I currently run and operate, along with an awesome team, 3 independent businesses.
Wow, what a journey. What is the most dangerous belief an investor can have?
The most dangerous belief an investor can have is overconfidence. That's my personal opinion. I see so many business owners who will start their business not realizing the struggle or the pain, the blood, sweat, and tears is what I heard one old country boy tell me. The blood, sweat, and tears that we business owners go through, or investors go through for that matter. You know, if an investor is buying into a business or buying into a marketable security, whatever an investor is buying into, if you're overly confident in yourself or a piece of technology, it will lead to some problems. There was actually a study done, and I'm going to butcher the study. I quoted this on our podcast that we do probably 6 episodes ago, and it talked about how 80% of people in the world believe they're excellent or better than average drivers being driving a car. And there's no way that 80% can be above average. So mathematically, it's impossible. And what the study went on to show is how business owners, whenever we become overly confident in ourselves, that I can fix it, I can solve the problem, then ultimately we end up being the single largest danger to ourselves long term, which, I know we're going to talk about sellability at some point, but that one overconfidence that I can solve the problems, I can fix it, and you maybe can. It will ultimately create yourself to be the center of the business, the center of your investing, and it creates a transferable issue. So I would say overconfidence.
Why do you do what you do, Justin?
Oh, man, I've been asked that question, Patience, probably some 15 times in the last month. And I every time I'm asked that question, I pause. I'm a pretty simple fella. If I were to say it's to change the world, it would be a lie. Because if that was the case, I'd go work at like the American Red Cross, right? Mm-hmm. I just absolutely love watching business owners double or triple their net worth. I like watching and helping firsthand as the coach with our team, the coach of these business owners' lives, I love watching them win. It's kind of like here in East Tennessee, we have the Tennessee Volunteers. It's a football team that plays for the University of Tennessee. And they actually won a game this week. And to watch the coach take pride in the players of that team, he was beaming with excitement. I'd have to say the reason why I do what I do is because it's fun. It's a challenge. There's never the same way. And at the end of the day, I get to watch people I end up loving, friends, people who end up becoming friends, reach their goals. So to me, that is the reason why I do what I do.
Let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
How do I know I'm successful? That's a good question as well. People tell me I'm successful. I don't view success as a certain dollar value. If somebody were to say, look at my net worth, they may say I'm successful. I don't view success by trophies or awards, although some people view that. Here's the way I view I'm successful. I'm married to the same woman for almost 20 years. At the end of the day, when I walk home, I get a big slobbery wet kiss from her, and she tells me that she loves me. At the end of the day, when I get home, my 3 kids love to sit down and have a conversation with their dad. The way I view that I'm successful is if I'm able to take the little bit of knowledge, the little bit of wisdom, the little tiny bit of wisdom that I have, and I'm able to share it with people, and I can change something for the better or help them become better, whatever the better is, then I view that as a success.
Can anyone be an investor, or are some people more cut out for it than others?
Yes, some people more cut out to be an investor than others. I think we all can invest. We all can invest. Let me change the question around slightly to kind of push my point home. I loved watching Michael Phelps in the Olympics a few years back win an unbelievable amount of gold medals. Loved it. I personally love to swim, so I liked watching him swim for the United States Olympics, and I like watching him break records for the Olympics. Does that mean that every person who wants to swim is going to break records and going to be a Michael Phelps in the swimming league? No, that's impossible and improbable. Just like it's improbable for every child who wants to learn to play football or baseball or soccer or cricket or whatever other sport for them to make it to the top 5%. It's improbable. But every person can get out, and if they're physically able, they can get out and throw a ball. They can get out and kick a ball or play a ball. They can get in the water and swim. Doesn't mean they're going to be the rock star, but they can enjoy themselves. So in the sense that can every person be an investor? Absolutely. Every person should be an investor. That's where that personal accountability comes into play. But can everybody be the Warren Buffett? It's improbable. It's inconceivable that could happen. Does that mean that we shouldn't try? Absolutely not. We should. We should get involved and help set ourselves and our families and our friends and what our businesses, whatever else, up for the future that we all desire.
What have you learned from business as a whole?
It's hard. It's hard. It's going to kick you square in the teeth when you least expect it. Being a business owner for over 25, almost 30 years now, there's just about nothing I have not seen, either in my own business or advising hundreds of business owners. Business is going to test every facet of your person. It's going to test your emotional strength. It's going to test your spiritual strength. It's going to test your physical strength. Even if you're in a white collar job like I am, it's going to test you. But ultimately, the person who wins, whatever that trophy for every business owner is, the person who wins is the one that gets up and tries again. And then when they get knocked down, get up and try again. We have too many stories of successes. Colonel Sanders, who started and founded Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is a chicken chain. They cook really good fried chicken here in the United States. In fact, I saw one in Malta when I was in Malta as well. He didn't start his business until he was in his early 60s. He failed. If you look at many, many entrepreneurs over life, they spend the first 20 years of their life trying to just stay alive, being quit. We all struggle with that, just being stupid. Sometimes we were kids. We spend the next 20 years of our life trying to figure out which way is up or which way is down. And then we end up from about our 40s to our 60s becoming successful. So the biggest lesson I've learned, patience, is that very thing, patience. But more importantly, it's that business is hard and it's going to kick you square in the teeth. You just got to get up and try again. And eventually you'll win.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
I'm stubborn and bullheaded. Yeah, I think everybody around me would agree with that. If anybody in my office here, my wife, my mother, my brother, my sister, everybody in my life would tell you that I'm stubborn and bullheaded. So I recently wrote a book called The Ultimate Sale, How a Business Owner Can Grow Their Business and Sell It. The reason why I wrote that book was because a college teacher told me that I would never be able to write. And my response was, oh, yeah? Well, one day I'm going to write a New York Times bestseller because I'm stubborn and bullheaded. So whenever somebody, whenever business kicks you, the reason for my success, if you want to use that term, is because you don't quit. There's an old story talking about a military campaign where the captain pulled his men up into shore and they turned around and they told him to burn the boats. And he said, gentlemen, the only way you'll see your friends, your families, and those you love is to go through the enemy. There is no retreat. And if you take that approach in business, investing, life, there's nothing we can't do. We may not be the best at it, but at least we can try and have a good time and many times succeed.
In your businesses, do you ever have a mentor or a coach yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have several coaches. In fact, last Monday morning, I have a mentor that I trust greatly, and I have to make a business decision, one that I can't see very clear through. And so I called this mentor. I said, hey, I'd like to pick your brain for a second. We sat down for about 2.5, 3 hours and examined the decision from every way possible that we could come up with. Then I took the points that we gathered and went to another one of my life coaches who's not a business owner, but they know me and they know my strengths and weaknesses. And they analyzed the decision that we had come up with on how it would affect me personally, how it would affect me mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So yes, I believe that every person should have a coach of some point in their life. Many times we go to churches and we have pastors or bishops or elders that end up being our coaches in our spiritual life. In the physical life, we end up getting a sports coach. I was at the gym early this morning working out, and I was watching coaches work with many people, trying to push them a little bit further. But then we get to the business world, and somehow one of the mistakes we have is that overconfidence that I mentioned earlier, that we can do it ourselves. But Michael Phelps, who I mentioned earlier, had a coach. The coach couldn't swim as good as Michael Phelps, but he has a coach. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all times, had a coach. Many business owners, Elon Musk, I was just reading some news articles from him through the Wall Street Journal. He has a coach. Even presidents, even world leaders have multitude of, quote, coaches. In fact, even the scriptures say in the Bible, it says in a multitude of counselors or coaches, there's safety. So you doggone right I have a coach. There's no way I can do this by myself.
What is the most valuable thing your coaches or mentors has told you?
Oh, wow. Man, you're driving deep in my life here, Patience. I love it. You're making me think. The most valuable thing. I get this statement many different ways. I get it from coaches who'll say this, and then my dear wife, whom I love deeply. A couple of weeks ago, I was spinning too fast. And I come home from work, in the middle of our bathroom mirror, she took a Post-it note, like a little 2.5 by 2.5 piece of paper. And on there, she wrote, calm down, slow down, be still, and be yourself. And that is the advice I get consistently from just about every coach that I have. Calm down, slow down, be still, and be yourself.
Tell us 3 ways to increase your business long-term value.
If you're going to increase your business's long-term value, you've got to focus on 3 things. First thing is cash flow. Cash flow is how you get paid and where you spend your money. We all know that we should spend less than we make. That's a given. But many people don't realize that the way in which we spend our money affects the sellable value of our businesses. So the cash flow is number one, and knowing how to spend it so it increases your value of your business is important. The two other things are called tangible and intangible assets. So tangible assets are things like money in the bank, things like pieces of equipment, maybe computers, maybe patents or trademarks. In fact, we just got a patent the other day issued to one of my businesses. That's a tangible asset. Intangible assets come in multiple different things. I would say that intangible assets are going to be those things that we can't touch, we can't see, but yet they increase the value of our company. I view basically four categories of intangible assets. Your human capital, that's how you build your team. What makes one sports team able to win the trophy where another one can't? It's the humans on that team. It's knowing their skill sets or pairing them correctly. You have in business, you have a customer capital. That is making sure you don't have customer concentration where you have all your customers, and my dad used to say all your eggs in one basket. You make sure you have diversification among your customer by gender, by age, by location, by income, by many classifications. Then you have your structural capital, and these are all intangible assets. So your human, your customer, your structural, and that's how your systems work. McDonald's is a big popular restaurant that we would recognize nationally and globally. McDonald's is amazing to me because when you go to McDonald's, if you go, you can see many times young people, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds cooking with 400 and 500 degree hot grease, and they don't burn the building down. That's because they have systems, structures in place to teach people who may not understand the danger they're dealing with to keep everybody safe. And the fourth intangible asset is what's called social capital. That's how the community at large see our business and why it's important. So here's what's amazing, patience, about business. Many times we business owners, we jump into what we know and do. One of my first businesses I wanted to create was create daylilies. It's a type of flower that blooms globally. I wanted to grow these pretty little flowers. So I knew how to buy them and sell them. So I knew how to do cash flow. And I had a big garden full of them. They were tangible. You could actually walk out in the nursery and see these plants. What I couldn't do, which McDonald's learned how to do, was to create that intangible things, those things that make that business operate without me, the business owner. So if you want to grow your long-term value, three things: cash flow, tangible, but you've got to focus on those intangible assets, your team, your customers, your systems, and ultimately the community at large and how they view you. And that's what drives a long-term value of your company.
You tell business owners to plan their exit the moment they begin their business. What do you mean by that?
Many of us, when we start our business, myself included, my little landscape company that I started, I just wanted to make money. I was 15 years old, had a dog, and I wanted to feed him some hamburgers, and I wanted to go and be able to go to the store and buy some clothes or go to the movie theaters on a Saturday night. That was my life. So many business owners, we jump into something that we know and love, and we just want to make money. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with the desire to make money because money is a great tool that we can use to benefit many people, including ourselves. But many times, business owners get caught up in the circle of now my business ends up being my, quote, largest asset. I work with so many people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and whenever I see their net worth statement, 80% of their net worth is their business. So when I look at the balance sheet liabilities, they've got houses and a lot of rental properties and maybe a couple of businesses, maybe some cash in the bank, maybe some retirement assets. But ultimately, this business makes up about 80%. And that's a study from the Exit Planning Institute. What happens is, though, is that the business is not sellable. No one's interested in buying it. In fact, only about 3% of businesses actually end up selling for what the business owner thinks they're worth. And truthfully, only about 14 to 15% of businesses actually sell. The reason for that is we business owners, we start trying to make money and we forget that we have this huge asset, our business, which is a piece of junk, it causes us to have to work long hours. we actually, if we calculate what we get paid, we don't make a lot of money for the hours we work for many, many, many business owners. But more importantly, we can't sell the thing because it's totally centered around us. So it's like having a stock that you actually have to work for a living just to get the dividends. Or it's like having a rental property that you're having to constantly manage just to get the rental income. So the reason why I tell people to start thinking about the exit, trying to sell their businesses early, is because if you think about where you're headed, you're more likely to get there. I use an analogy in my book where we talk about traveling across the country. For some reason, I picked Portland, Oregon, which if your listeners would recognize the demographics or geography of that, Tennessee, where I'm located in Knoxville, is in the southeast of the United States, and Portland, Oregon is in the northwest of the United States. For me to drive to Portland, Oregon from Knoxville, Tennessee would take me about 2.5 to 3 days of pretty hard driving. Now I could fly. I could take a boat, potentially. I'd have to go down through the Panama Canal to get there, but I could take a boat. I could take a plane. I could take a train. I could take a bus. I could do many things. The idea being that we are in this journey, this trip, this vacation, except that for many business owners, they don't really know where they're going. They've never stopped to say, hey, I want to sell my business in 10 years. I want to sell my business when I'm 60. I want to sell my business when I'm 40. I want to sell my business and travel the world. I want to give my business down to my kids. I want to sell my business to my team members, my employees of the organization. So the reason why I say, hey, take a step back, look at where we're starting this business at, take a time and look forward, and let's grow it to where you want to be. And then you know that you're going to at least get closer than by not having a plan at all.
How do business owners determine their business worth?
Okay, so we're talking about worth, value, sellable position, net worth. Let's use all those things interchangeable. And this is, I'm going to make this really simple. In fact, my blog is called Financially Simple. I try to break these complex things down to where I can understand it, just the old country boy here. There's basically two things that actually drive the value or that create the value of the business. The first one is a revenue factor. So many people would use EBIT, earnings before interest and taxes. Some people may use EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. Some people may use net operating income. So that would be our total sales, what we bring into the company, minus our expenses, give us our net operating income. Some people may use the total revenue. In many different small medical practices, they'll use the total revenue. So if the business makes $2 million, that's the number they'll use. So you have on the very first thing that helps us calculate the business is the dollar figure that we're going to use. Most commonly is called EBITDA, and it stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. So there's a lot of add back things there that accountants get paid to do, but let's call it our profits for simplicity. So we look at our profits of our business, and then there's a factor, there's a multiple. There's a multiplier that comes into our profits. And that multiplier is ultimately driven by our cash flow, our tangible assets. So remember the cash, the equipment, the patents, things of that nature, and our intangible assets, which we talked about earlier. That was our team member, that was our customers, that was our systems, and ultimately the community at large and how they perceive our business. So when you're going to price or value a company, ultimately what has taken place is the profits of the company have a multiplier applied to it. So I mentioned a medical practice. I'm actually meeting with an entrepreneurial doctor today. This one happens to be a dentist. This dentist produces about $1.2 million a year. And they have a really young team, a really young employee base. They have a very diversified customer base. They have processes and manuals that the dentist does not have to be in the business. It can actually operate with an associate dentist. And the community at large loves this dentist. They're well connected within the community. So that would mean that their multiplying factor is very high. So if the dentist is producing, let's say, $1 million a year, they're going to have $1 million times a multiplying factor of, let's say, 90%. So their business is roughly worth $900,000. Whereas another dentist producing $1 million a year may have a multiplying factor of 60%, and their business would only be worth $600,000. And you could take that concept of whatever my revenue standpoint is times a multiplier, and that gives you the value of your company.
Let's talk about your business. Tell us more about your business and where can we find it?
Sure. So I have 3 businesses. My favorite business is called Financially Simple. That's the business that I teach very complex structures. In fact, we have 208 or 9 or 10 podcasts out and over 1,000 articles on our blog. So you can go to financiallysimple.com, and we have a book there as well. You can find that on Amazon called The Ultimate Sale. I have another business called Heritage Business Advisors. And in that business, we have a group of masters in business, people with MBAs, as we call them here in the States. These guys and gals are expert business owners, and they work with our businesses, teaching them how to grow the value of their companies, helping them sell their companies, helping them start companies. So that's Heritage Business Advisors. And then Heritage Investors is an investment firm that all our business owners work with. It's to help them realize that they can retire one day, they can put their kids through school, and they can reach their goals. So those are my 3 businesses that I currently own.
So, okay, the ones where you help people to retire early and you help their kids to school, what type of clientele do you work with in that one?
So the team works with 90% of the people there are business owners. Typically, we're working with business owners to drive what we like to say is we can't always do it, but we try to double our clients' net worth every 3 to 5 years. That's our goal for our clients. And so we're typically working with business owners on that avenue. We're working with a lot of young XY generation, my generation, teaching them the basics. You've got to learn how to do the basics before you can get to the more complex things. Our team manages millions and millions and millions of dollars of money for our clients and in that area. So we work with a lot of business owners, a lot of young XY, and people who are just don't want to have to think about the money side of life themselves.
Okay, how can we find you and how can we connect with you?
So the easiest way to connect is through social media. If you look for Justin Goodbread, it's a very unusual name. You can find it on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. We have Financially Simple on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. We have an Instagram channel. You can see so much about my life, you get bored with my life. Everybody that we share a lot of stuff there. I would say the easiest way to connect is to go through Financially Simple. That's the hub that everything in my life operates from. We have a podcast. You can look for Financially Simple on your most popular podcast listening system. And what we do there is we basically take one subject, one simple question, and I teach on it for about 20 minutes. And I bring in guests, attorneys, CPAs, experts in their respective fields to come in and answer one targeted question. And we typically do it on a series. So you can just Google Justin Goodbread and find us about anywhere out there.
So, Clan, there will be more from Justin in a moment. If you are listening on one of the many podcasting platforms rather than my website and you are encouraged by Justin's journey, go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for a bonus portion of the interview. The Online Success Journey is a wonderful membership community built for people searching for the path to success. We are one big clan and you can be part of this community for free. Once you have joined the clan, click on part 2 of Justin's journey or over 150 other journeys that are available and learn how you can find the right path for your own success. That's a wrap, clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Justin.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the online success journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.